and that is Newcastle United. Why? Because the Saudis are in town today. In a major development, key issues surrounding the Saudi-backed Newcastle takeover have been overcome. So much so, this is gathering pace as we speak, Simon.
Yep.
We're expecting an announcement sometime today that PIF, the Saudi-backed consortium, are in and have control of Newcastle United. And all of a sudden, they join the football financial elite. We'll get into the implications of that very shortly because, I mean, how would a takeover of this scale change the landscape of the Premier League, the so-called elite, and football as a whole? Certainly back in July, what will we call Amanda Staveley, the deal facilitator on behalf of the Saudis, if you like. She told us back in July, when it didn't look like it would happen, she still said, we won't walk away, this will happen.
Obviously, we want this transaction and want the club, we want very much to be able to invest in the club, invest in the North, invest in Newcastle, and, there's no reason why that can't go ahead. We are all passionate about Newcastle, all the consortium members are, and we're looking forward to trying to get this transaction over the wall, and it will do.
And she was right. And she was right.
And she was right.
She was right.
And I must admit, Simon, we cannot take that away from her because she could have said that day, do you know what, I'm not coming to air with you. Do you know what, we have been beaten on this one.
Well, she was right to come on air because she had organised a march, was part of calling for a march down in London to campaign against it. By the very nature of the vehicle that she's created, the Saudis have been pummeled into an embarrassing climb down on piracy. The CAT case and the arbitration, without the Saudis doing this, were not going to be won for Newcastle. All this nonsense about the CAT case, that was compensation for Mike Ashley and getting an embarrassment factor by getting in the public domain and trying to find a silver bullet. The arbitration, without the Saudis taking the pill on swallowing the existence of piracy, prepared to pay $1 billion dollars of compensation to a broadcaster and accept that there'd be no more piracy, this deal wouldn't happen. But it has happened.
Yeah.
So Amanda, by a series of circumstances, has been right, and right she was.
But she stuck with it, Simon. That's the thing. She has stuck with it. She stuck with them. They stuck with her.
She had to stick with it because she stuck the Saudis in the cart by putting them in a deal for 19 million quid that they couldn't complete.
How does this change the landscape of the Premier League?
Now, how it changes the landscape of the Premier League?
Big kid in the block, maybe the biggest.
Here's how it works. Some people could say it's quite a bad day for football, and other people, specifically Newcastle fans, will say it's a great day. And for Newcastle, it's a great day. In the same way it was a great day for Man City, in the same way it's a great day for Chelsea, in the same way it's a great day for PSG. The reason why I say it's not a great day for football is it brings in a new situation where hyperinflation will come to pass, because Newcastle will come in with owners that have 320 billion worth of worth, not the 23 billion that the poor Sheikh Mansour has by comparison, the 320 billion worth of worth they have. They come in with a business that financially has been in relatively decent nick because Mike Ashley hasn't run it at a loss for years. So they've got 3 years now that they can smash out of the transfer market without having any complications around financial fair play. Because Mike will probably, even though the losses are there from the COVID situation and there hasn't been any spend from Mike this year, besides Joe Willock, because of that, previously they've been making 30-40 million quid a year. So they're in profit. Right? So that means the 105 million worth of losses over 3 years, the Saudis haven't got to do anything or worry about anything for 3 years and worry about the consequence of it in 3 years' time.
So are others around the country worried in the other boardrooms this morning?
Listen, they'll accept the landscape in the same way they've accepted it with Man City. They didn't want it. No one's going to vote for someone to come and compete with you if you can help it. But this idea that there's a big six, the same lawyer that represents Amanda Staveley represents the big six in their battle against the ESL sanctions. But don't be under any illusion how this all hangs together. But this represents a situation where the ecosystem of football becomes challenged again, because you're going to drive up the prices, because Newcastle isn't a natural destination for the world's best footballers. I'm not sort of talking about geography, but when you've got the perception in footballers' minds about where they're going to land, Chelsea in London, Manchester United or Man City, and now Newcastle, and you're going to find there's going to be an element of hyperinflation. To get the best players into Newcastle, they're going to have to pay a premium to start with. That will then drive up the price for everybody else across the Premier League, drive up wages because they have to pay players more wages to come to Newcastle whilst they realise that Newcastle is building to a powerhouse. But people don't see the vision sometimes until the vision arrives, and they won't care they've got these billionaire owners until they've got a proper team. And then when you start buying Mbappe or whoever else they think they're going to buy, you will drive up the price because wages will go up, and that's the worry that I have. But for Newcastle fans, I've never, ever said, why shouldn't they have this? Why shouldn't they have a big set of owners? Why are Man City more entitled, or Chelsea more entitled, or any other football club to have a big set of owners? My only issue has always been that you cannot let a fox in the hen house. If piracy is part of it, that needs to be gotten rid of.
It was the murkiness in the background,
If it's gotten rid of, then Newcastle have every right to dream. They're a great football club. Some of their fans say things that I don't agree with, but then again, that's all fans. Some of their fans piling on abuse because they didn't like my opinion, or they didn't like someone else's opinion.
Yeah.
But no one has ever suggested that Newcastle aren't entitled to have good owners.
As soon as they get into that boardroom, which could be as early as today, does the whole landscape change?
Well, the whole landscape has changed yesterday. The whole landscape changed potentially when they came into pass. The vehicle that was put in place by Amanda was wrong. 18 months of this deal could have been done 18 months ago if it had been done properly. It's now been done.
Is it bad for football but good for the Premier League?
I think it's bad in some respects. But it's good and bad, Jim, because it's great that we've got another team inside the Premier League that's going to break up the dynasty of Manchester United, Man City, Chelsea, potentially. It's going to create more intrigue. It's going to bring more news headlines. It might even bring more broadcasting deals. But by the same token, it's going to drive up the price of football.
Sure.
And what needs to happen must happen now. They must introduce governance. These guys can spend what they want, but they must introduce governance. If Newcastle want to build their turnover to 500 million quid a year because they're successful, that's great. But they can't break the model, and financial fair play must kick in like it has in Spain and say, right, 70% of turnover wages. If you build your turnover to Newcastle because you're Premier League winners, you're in the Champions League, you're doing this to 500 million quid, you can still spend 350 million on transfers.
Who's going to take a hit here? Tottenham, Arsenal, Leicester.
You know, listen, how long did it take Man City to build themselves to the point they're at now? Mansur and Tyrone Archer, that was full of money as well, bought them, and it took them 3-4 years to power up, right, and really be dominant. Maybe 3 years. But Newcastle can't just switch the lights on. It's going to take them a period of time. But what they've got, the big thing for Newcastle fans, is you've got rid of Mike now, potentially. If this deal goes through, which is, I can't imagine, if you're talking about morality, then the Premier League will have an answer to this if they want to go down a morality clause.
Right.
But they're never going to go down that clause, because that ship has already sailed. There's arguments about the reasons other club owners are in place, so you can't run that argument against Newcastle. This will change the direction now. What does it mean? It means that it puts more pressure on other sides. The Arsenals of the world are going to have to look over their shoulder at another potential rival. But you've seen, hold on a second, you've seen Mashiri throw fortunes at Everton. Fortunes at Everton.
Yeah, but Mashir's got nothing like this lot have got coming into the North East.
But Jim, there is a point. They can't just spend £1 billion like that and not be sanctioned at some point. If they spend £1 billion, in 3 years' time they're going to be sanctioned, right, because they're going to breach financial fair play. Right. If they're prepared to do that and make it part of their business model, then Christ on a bike, do we want that? Does anybody want that?
I know what you're saying. But are we talking, before we hit the break, I'm under siege from Newcastle fans. Are we all of a sudden talking that Newcastle, Simon, are in the ballpark for Erling Haaland, for Kylian Mbappe?
No.
Are we talking about that?
No, because you can't make Newcastle, you can't turn a sow's ear into a silk purse overnight, right? Newcastle are a great football club. They occupy decent precedence, but you're still not Real Madrid. You're still not Barcelona, irrespective of Barcelona's sanctions right now. You're still not an elite football club.
Statement signings. They'll be after statement signings.
Yeah, they will. But so were Man City for some time. They signed people like Robinho and so on and so forth, and it took them a while to get there. And Newcastle geographically does have a challenge. By the way, I've had shops in Newcastle, friends in Newcastle. I've been up to Newcastle many times. I don't think it's a poor relation. I think it's a wonderful part of the country. But geographically, in the mind of foreign players, with the greatest will in the world, it doesn't really exist in comparison to London and Manchester. Okay, Newcastle fans, we will see about that, but Newcastle fans, we want to hear from you, and we are hearing from you. Good God. 08717 223344. One message there, no name on it. Right now, Newcastle United are looking at filling St James's Park with 100,000 fans in an all-seated stadium every week. That's what lies ahead. I don't know, they're getting carried away somewhat, Simon.
Jim White and Simon Jordan, Monday to Thursday morning, 10 till 1. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.